Hi, my name is Nadej, and I'll be discussing these two books. The Otessa Moshfegh that I've read, my thoughts. This isn't really a book review and a should you read it. There might be spoilers. It's more for people who've read it, who wanted to see what other people had to say. Or just me rambling. So, I read My Year of Rest and Relaxation about, I can give you the date. On May 31st, 2022, so almost a month ago to the day. And I wrote, my year of rest and relaxation seems to be either adored or completely hated by those who read it, and honestly, I have no clue where I fall. Some passages were gripping, relatable, and insightful. However, the insufferable nature of the protagonist can sometimes be too much. I think the second half of the book is vastly superior to the first, especially with more importance placed on Riva, who overall I consider to be the most fleshed out character. Overall, I enjoyed the book, but maybe quite a bit of it went over my head. I revisited it, and most importantly, after having read Eileen and now have quite a bit more to say about it. I think the vulgarity is something that definitely turned a lot of readers off to My Year of Rest and Relaxation. And again, that's something that makes you fall into two camps. You love it, you think it's relatable, it's nice to see these gory details emulated by, a very respected writer and very talented writer, I would say. Or you think, oh, this is too much, like I absolutely cannot be reading this right now. I think for me it was especially, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, passages about the bulimia, which I think perhaps, some warnings would have been much appreciated, or, let's see, here. The truth was that they were just afraid of vaginas, afraid that they'd fail to understand one as pretty and pink as mine, and they were ashamed of their own sexual inadequacies. Yada yada yada. It's easy to imagine those guys masturbating to Chloe Sevigny, Selma Blair, and Lily Sobieski, to Winona Ryder. And I think for most of the female readers of these books, these are names that come out immediately as these slightly unconventional, kind of mystical beauties, the not like other girls, the object of fantasy for edgelords alike. And so sometimes it's gripping and sometimes it does the opposite. It makes you want to put the book down and not be able to put it back up. I think it's a bit of a misunderstood book in that it's often classified as female rage, but the protagonist doesn't seem to be feeling much of anything until the Twin Towers fall. That's a very interesting element. Like, I think I still agree with my notes that the second half is far superior because Riva is introduced. And I think that revisiting this book, having understood how Otessa Moshfegh writes, is crucial. Because in Eileen, I think this book is a masterpiece. It's incredible. It's amazing. I could rave about it. I won't. I think it's a little bit sad when an author's first book seems to be their best, e.g. a la Donna Tartt, but I think it really gives a lot of insights into how she chooses to write, because the friendship between these two women in the book is obviously extremely superficial. It's not particularly deep, and it's oftentimes more out of necessity, and as is with the protagonist and Riva's friendship, out of necessity, sometimes out of envy. Envy is that big emotion that she can really latch onto. And in those gory and gross details, for example, the digestive state of the protagonist in Eileen, all of these details need to have a purpose, and I think that is much more clear and a little bit more palatable in Eileen, especially with the, I don't want to say murder mystery, but with the kind of true crime coastal New England setting that is in this book. And I think once you understand that envy is this emotion she really likes to latch onto, that the toxicities of friendship between two women is something she can write beautifully, and that she needs to include these details, is really, really wonderful. I was a little nervous to try another Otessa Moshfegh after this one, but I absolutely recommend Eileen. You all should go read it. I also think it gives a lot more insight into understanding the dreariness of the entire setting. And I think that's one of the things I enjoyed the most in My Year of Rest and Relaxation. Even in these very idyllic and often romanticized places, e.g. beautiful apartment in New York City, there's the darkness of it all, there's the depth, there's the solitude. I think my biggest issue with My Year of Rest and Relaxation was only the protagonists and Riva seem to be fleshed out characters. And it's very difficult to fully believe the protagonist's bubble of solitude when she is taking all of those pills, when she is having her year of rest and relaxation, when Riva is still able to pull through that, but only slightly. I think if they really emphasized their friendship and made it so that Riva could save the protagonist, it'd be much more interesting, or if she was completely withdrawn and completely out of the bubble. That's probably a bit of an unpopular opinion, but it's what I think. Whereas here, the other secretaries at the boys' correctional facility, Eileen's sister, though she's really briefly mentioned, you can tell a lot about her, Eileen's father and mother. It creates a world, whereas this one attempts to do so by talking a little bit about the New York art scene and the kids she met at Columbia, the abusive boyfriend, but it ultimately fails to do so in a way that I think does not make it nearly as gripping. But I do think her work, and maybe this is, something that other people don't like to do, but her work does layer on itself very nicely. And the more you read of her, the more you like her. I was this way with Eudora Welty and Toni Morrison, as well as William Maxwell, or, let's see, can I think of any others? Cormac McCarthy, yeah. And so maybe an author shouldn't rely on their entire body of work to do something like this, but I think when Ottessa Moshfegh does it and you see her thoughts and her writing as a much more cohesive picture, and she doesn't have a particularly different style in every single book, or I guess style isn't the right word, she doesn't have a particularly different approach or frame of mind in every single book, I think it's interesting and it's really beautiful. Overall, I don't think I'd read this one twice. But knowing what I know now, I think I'd be able to skim through it again. And Eileen definitely would read again. I think it was a book I had a reading slump when I decided to pick it up. And it got me out of it immediately. I think it's one of the few contemporary page-turners that there are left. So thank you for listening.